Tara.
I'm Ryan.
We love Disney movies.
So we decided to watch them all, from Snow White
to Frozen 2 and beyond. Each episode will watch a different Walt Disney Animated Studios film and tell you all about it.
Did we like it? Does it hold up? Who's our favorite hero?
Or villain.
We'll give you history and fun facts about each movie.
And sometimes we'll invite our friends to watch along with us.
So put on your tiara
or your evil crown
and join us on our adventure.
This is Tara and Ryan's Princess Diaries. Hello, listeners.
Okay, so you might be wondering why Tara sounds so...
You cut me off. I didn't even get to, really get into it.
Listen, you're normally so cheery when you start that this will be very noticeable. I forgot to hit record, so here we go again.
Take two,
guys. Hi, welcome our returning guest, Gretchen, our dog-loving friend who was here for Fox and the Hound. Say hello, Gretchen.
Hello.
Yes. So, Gretchen, I know you've already said hello and explained everything, but we talked earlier about how none of us have seen this movie, and we're all just, you included, said, oh, I'll do it just because you're like, I want to do a dog movie.
Yeah, I love dogs. I love dog movies.
I know, dogs are...
many movies, there's a dog in it, I'm in.
Yes, dogs are fantastic. Except, well, Marley and Me's great, but sad.
I mean, there's a website called Does the Dog Die? And it's literally just lets you know what happens to the dog in a movie.
I kind of love that, so you can be prepared. But I would love, Gretchen, for you to just go into a little bit about what you do with dogs now. I know you have a deep love of dogs all your life, but...
Yes, currently I am working for a service dog organization that trains service dogs for people with autism and for veterans. And the dogs are actually trained full-time in 2 different prisons in the San Diego area. And the trainers do everything in the prison, and then we take them out into public so they can see birds and cats and other dogs and women and children and men outside of the prison.
Yes. Ryan was curious as to why, not thinking that it was a male prison, a men's prison you were in. Yeah. Well, that is awesome. It's very, very cool. So it's kind of a fun connection, and we all love dogs, and we're all just, I think, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed about this movie, just like really... Right?
We talked about how I think I'm a little on the fence because this all came out in 2008.
Yes, and we were trying to think back. Gretchen and I were roommates together, but don't really remember any advertising for it.
All 3 of us have left higher education at this point, so we're like adults in the world. So I'm not, and I don't think we're all going like, what's the next Disney movie? And this also wasn't based on anything. It was kind of in that area where we were still kind of shruggy about non-Pixar computer animation, trying to figure that out. But I will make the same joke I made the first time we tried to record this, where I say, I looked up the making of Bolt, and I found out that they start with a 3/4 inch thick wire made of cold steel and carbon that is covered with a powdered lubricant and straightened so it could be cut and hammered into individual bolts. Oh, and then everyone laughed and we had a good time. But I did about that joke I made. But I did legitimately watch a how they make bolts video that I think I'll put up somewhere.
I think you should.
As we were going through this, we have a bunch of facts, but to us they're kind of nebulous, because we don't have a frame of reference for any of them. So what we're going to do is this is probably going to be one of our shorter pre-movie sections, but we'll go through them all. But if you have any memories about this movie, if you're interested to let us know, like, oh, I really liked it, I remember seeing this and that and the other, let us know, 787-YO-TRPD1, send us an email, do whatever, call us, let us know what you think, and we'll love to play it later on a later episode. I do, since we're talking about phone numbers, you have a fact about a phone number.
I do have a fact about a phone number. And I also, before I get to the fact about a phone number, can we have listeners submit pictures of their dogs?
Yeah,
absolutely. Can we do something on the Facebook when this releases, and we can do everyone's dogs? If
you have a picture of your dog you want to send, I think here's the thing I've been seeing a lot on Instagram is, they have those they have a filter that makes you look like, it gives you big cartoon eyes.
Oh, yeah.
People have been doing it to their dogs.
Oh,
and it's really funny. So if you can get one of those and send it to us,
and you do it through Instagram?
Yeah, I do it through Instagram or TikTok or whatever. It's a filter, and you put it on your dog, and it's just funny because the dogs, like when you see a human do it, they start laughing or whatever. This is just a dog looking at you like, what? And it's got these big cartoon eyes.
All right, so we'll have to do that when the episode releases
absolutely.
Too. But the fact I have about a number is Penny is printing lost dog flyers, and Penny is the owner of Bolt, we think. And the last four digits...
Penny is Miley Cyrus, the owner of Bolt. Yes.
And
we know.
The last four digits are 8423, and I don't know if you see the whole number at some point, but the number is 877-504-8423. And it was reserved by ABC for movies and television. And if you call, it would say, "Thank you for calling ABC. The number you have reached is a fictional non-working number used for motion picture and television production." And Ryan went to call it, and I said, "Oh, don't bother, because I already did." And it gives you this number is no longer in service message.
Which is a bummer.
So, but we should say it's 2008, I think Ryan mentioned, 89% on Rotten Tomatoes. 67% on Metacritic, so it scored pretty high.
Mm-hmm. The top three movies of that year, number 3 was Kung Fu Panda, number 2 was Indiana Jones and the Crystal, and the first one is The Dark Knight.
Yeah, so, and you said what? That's made almost $1 billion.
According to that, it's almost got $1 billion, which
is
crazy for back then. But
yeah,
also we were talking about that was back when we didn't have a new Batman movie every other year.
John Travolta is the voice of Bolt. Mm-hmm. I don't know if we've mentioned that yet. Maybe we have. I mean, we have.
We
but
have,
I don't know if
when
it's
we
been
recorded
recorded.
This the first time.
Some things I found interesting that we all found interesting as well was the title is changed in different countries. Mm-hmm. So in Russia, it's released as Volt because Bolt can be a vulgar word for a male organ.
And what she means by that is what they play at church in Russia. When a man plays an organ.
Also, Volt in Hungary, France, and the French release in Canada. It's also Volt in those countries. And it's lighting in Croatia.
Lightning.
Not
lighting. Just general lighting.
Yeah, it's lightning in Croatia, Slovakia, Estonia, and Poland, and then it's titled Thunder in Bulgaria.
I'm assuming that it's like whatever that word is for those things in those countries.
It didn't say, but that would be my assumption as well.
Because that was the thing we talked about with Cool Runnings, that it translated out to cold buttocks. It wasn't actually just the English word, cold buttocks.
So I have a bunch of facts about Rhino, but you had something about Rhino with the voice actor, right?
Mark Walton was a story guy at Disney, and he was doing the temp track for the voice, and they liked him so much they wanted to give him the job. So and I'll put this video up. They told him, "Hey, we need you to record a few more lines." And embedded in the lines they wrote for him, it was like, "Congratulations, Mark, you're the voice of Rhino." So he read that and he kind of like looked at the camera. He's like, "What?" And they go, "You're the voice. We're going to cast you as a voice." And he gets real excited. And the dude seems like a complete and total spaz, like every time I see him. So I'm interested to see the few character scenes I saw with Rhino, like looked like he was well cast, and they were kind of like, "Oh yeah, he is Rhino."
That's awesome.
He was also the voice of Goosey Lucy, who I really enjoyed.
In Chicken Little. So some of the things I have about Rhino, I have a few things about Rhino. In order to properly animate Rhino, the crew adopted a real hamster, and they called it Doink, which we all enjoyed. And you had a wrestling connection.
There's a Doink the Clown was a wrestler who dressed as a clown in WWE. Okay. But I also wanted to point out another wrestling connection. Somewhere in this movie is Randy Macho Man Savage, so I'm on the lookout for his character. I'm sure it's not like he's going to be doing a hugely different voice other than his like typical like, "Ooh yeah," like it's probably just going to be that because he's billed as thug. So I'm assuming it's just some tough guy trying to like
or maybe he works with the villain or something. Dr. Calico, I don't know. But when they adopted this hamster, they filmed it beneath while walking on plexiglass. And the whole idea of that was so they could see how Rhino would walk in his plastic ball. Another thing about the plastic ball was apparently with this production, they had replacement animation. They had a whole team replaced following a change in directors. And the production only had 18 months to complete instead of 4 years. So it was a very, very hectic and probably very intense schedule. And because of that, they thought to help the crew relax, they would bring in a giant inflatable hamster ball. So not only could they get in the mindset of Rhino, but then they could also like use it as a release during what I can only imagine was a crazy time to work on, because in general, I think even 4 years sometimes is not enough time.
Well,
like depending on how things are done,
if it's anything like game development, it's like, yeah, we've been working on this 4 years, but it's always the last 10% that takes the most work.
Yeah. So, that, and then one other Rhino fact I have was when Rhino leaves the trailer park with Bolt and Mittens, he says Larrick Tereth, which is, I don't know that I'm even saying that right.
Which is a Galaxy Quest reference.
It's a chant, of strength from Galaxy Quest. So it's
a chant of strength.
That's what it says. It says it's the M-A-K, Tar, chant of strength.
It's got to be the Alan Rickman. It's either the Alan Rickman character, or do you remember the scene where the aliens are chanting something and they turn on the translator and they're going, rock, rock,
no.
rock, and it's because the monsters like the rocks come together. I will watch that movie.
Well, and that's why I thought you might know the fact, because you love the movie.
Well, yeah.
So, referring to the trailer park, the lighting director and the team, they traveled to several real-life locations, and the reason was they wanted to try to study how the light in those places interacted with the scenery. And so they went to an Ohio trailer park, they went to the docks in San Francisco, they went to the New York City, kind of the streets of New York, and then the desert surrounding Las Vegas. And then this is when you realize you had no idea all these places were going.
It's like, oh, sure, are those in this movie? If you say so.
And apparently, I'm kind of curious to look out for this. I want to see what hotels and casinos are featured, because apparently there's some from Las Vegas that are featured, and they actually exist. So I'm kind of interested which ones they used. We also talked about the story and how none of us really knew what it was about. Gretchen, what was your guess off of just the name?
He's fast.
He's fast. Yeah,
that was my guess. Was Bolt is fast, right?
Yeah, and so Ryan kind of went into a little bit about how it's this television dog, this movie star dog, but he thinks he's.
I think he's a movie star, but the dog actually thinks he's a superhero.
Yeah,
because I've seen scenes, and I remember scenes from trailers or things I've seen since then where like he has like a supersonic bark.
Oh,
but then I think he doesn't. Like I think in the movie, here's my prediction: this movie starts. It's like Roger Rabbit or something, where you're seeing like the movie, and then they're going to go cut, like something's going to happen. They're going to cut, and then she's actually going to get like legitimately kidnapped, and then he has to go and
save her.
During the movie, this is my whole prediction of the movie. Okay, so and then he meets Rhino, who thinks he's the real Bolt, and then the cat, who's Susie Essman, I believe.
Is that Mittens?
It's Mittens, who is. Apparently she came in ready with a voice, and they're like, no, just you talk. So it's just her being this very, very New York accent, because it's the woman from Curb Your Enthusiasm.
Yeah.
And she's the one who's like, you're not real. Like, she's going to be like the like trying to bring him down to earth character, and then he's going to realize that he didn't need the feather Dumbo. Like, he had the power inside him the whole time.
All right. Well, for the three of us who've never seen it, we'll have to track that.
Someone who actually has watched it, it's nothing about that, is right now like screaming at the podcast.
Is yelling at us.
What are you talking about?
But in 101 Dalmatians, the puppies are watching a TV show called The Alpha Dog. And the dog is called Thunderbolt, and the owner is Penny. So that was another Disney connection. And then
do you think that this show within the movie is maybe the 2008 reboot of the 60s
of what
show?
They were watching in Dalmatians?
They're like, we can't call him Thunderbolt anymore. We need something new and flashier for the kids. How about just Bolt?
I love that. I love that being like how it connects to the world of Disney and the other films. The other thing is the storyline of Bolt may sound familiar to you, the TV show, the Bolt TV show, because it is very similar to Inspector Gadget. The villain, Dr. Claw, has a pet cat. The villain in this is Dr. Calico, who has a pet cat. The niece is named Penny, and she has a hyper-intelligent dog named Brain.
Dr. Claw, of course, voiced by Disney regular Frank Welker, who did the voice of Joanna. And
really?
Yes, I think so. I believe so.
I loved Inspector Gadget as a kid. Dr. Claw was always.
Do you remember when he had a mustache? Do you ever? So they did the first few ones with him, and he had this mustache because he's supposed to be. This is getting off subject, but he's supposed to be like modeled after Professor Clouseau from the Pink Panther movies.
Okay.
And he had a mustache.
Yeah.
And so then they like didn't like it, so they took the mustache away, and in some cases they went back and redid some episodes without the mustache.
Mm-hmm.
But when I'm watching on TV, every once in a while he would just have a mustache.
I don't
just an
remember the
episode he'd have a
mustache.
mustache, and I'd go, why does he have a, like, it really confused me as a child.
Inspector Gadget had the mustache?
Yes, because they wouldn't talk about it, because, like,
oh,
again...
yes, I do remember that. I thought you were talking about Dr. Claw. I was like, well, we never
never
really
see his
see
face.
Dr. Claw's face, so I was super confused
There's
at what
a
you were
toy,
talking about.
we are now turning this into an Inspector Gadget
I loved
episode.
that.
But there's a toy where it
show.
shows his face, and it's the weirdest looking face. Oh, no, there's also a video game where you could see his face for a second. It's, like, very bad. Well, you know what? We'll put up some Inspector Gadget stuff.
Why not?
Yeah, why not?
There's a dog in it, so it connects. So some things to look out for. Do you have any other facts that you wanted to mention?
I didn't have much to begin with. I think we got everything I had.
Okay, so here are some things to look out for. When
Frank Welker also voiced Inspector Gadget, funny enough. Frank Welker, he did Dr. Claw and Inspector
he did
Gadget.
both of them.
Yeah.
Oh, that's kind of cool. When Bolt threatens to drop Mittens from the overpass, there's a bus that drives underneath. And it's the bus from Speed. It has the 25-25 on the roof, so you can kind of see that going by. So I thought that was super fun.
Have we ever watched Speed together?
No, but
we need to watch
should,
Speed together.
because I love that movie.
I know you do. I love watching cheesy action flicks with you.
Apparently, 30 minutes in, you can see the number on Bolt's dog tag, and it's the address of the Disney Feature Animation Building.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was kind of fun. There are a lot of weird Easter eggs, so these are a couple more of them. The studio lot that Bolt, the TV show, is filmed on is a recreation of the Riverside Drive entrance to the Disney studio lot in Burbank. So if anybody's been there, you can let us know how accurate it is. We have not been there. And I'm looking to see if there's a Willem scream.
Yes.
And that is apparently when Rhino is switching channels while watching TV. So it probably goes by quick, I would imagine, from that description. And then I have two more things. I have one about the 3D. I don't know if you want me to go into that, about how it's the first.
Well, we think it's the first one that was planned to be 3D from the get-go.
From the start, whereas Chicken Little, The Wild, and Meet the Robinsons were potentially planned as 2D and then changed to 3D.
Real quick note about The Wild. The Wild was a Disney-produced film done by a different studio that is not on our list at the moment. I'm sure we'll do it sometime as a mini-tale, and only a mini-tale because it looks very, very bad. So I don't want to watch it.
I want to take our time doing other stuff.
Yeah.
Disney artists, even though a lot of it was 3D, they did incorporate brushstrokes into the artwork to soften up the angular lines of the CGI animation. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing I read was that even though the film was fully computer animated, the crew still relied heavily on hand-drawn storyboards, similar to how I still rely on my handwritten notes.
Okay.
I thought you'd appreciate that.
Well,
someone out there does. I've got...
Oh, you do have more stuff.
One more thing. It's about the two directors. I thought that was kind of fun that they eventually get wins. So
we've had a dry run on this, listeners. So that's why I was like, I think we've done everything.
Yeah, I think we checked it off. We may have not mentioned it in this go around, but it was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Original Animated Feature, and it lost to WALL-E. Mm-hmm. And so Brian Howard and Chris Williams were the directors. So it was their first time being nominated. Chris Williams goes on to win the award 6 years later for Big Hero 6. And then Brian Howard goes on to win the award 8 years later for Zootopia.
It sounded like you said Big Euro 6. Is that because I was yawning a little bit?
I was like, I got tongue-tied.
Although now I'm hungry for a Euro. Like, Big Euro 6 sounds wonderful. Gretchen, I'm going to ask this, but I'm pretty sure the answer is no, unless you thought of something this time. Do you have anything else you want to throw in here, or are you just ready for a dog movie?
No, I'm ready for a dog movie.
Well, guys, it's time to take the VHS out of the clamshell and stick it in the VCR.
See you on the other side, listeners. Hello, listeners. We are back, and I think we all have kind of mixed feelings coming back from this film. I don't want to speak for all of us, but...
I liked it more than I didn't like it, but when I didn't like it, I really didn't like it. And I don't think it was... This is just a movie that I think has some really fun parts and is really... There's a lot of it that I really like, but when it's not... When I didn't like it, it was child and animal endangerment.
And, like, just cringy, uncomfortable moments. Yeah.
And I don't think it was a lot of that, but it was just
But it was enough of that like I don't know that I'd watch it again. I'd rather just watch clips of the parts I liked, like on YouTube.
I don't know. I solidly liked the middle.
Yeah.
And I liked the very beginning that was, this is what the show looks like. But anytime they were explaining the idea that like, oh, we don't tell this, we like take this dog. I mean, let's go through it. Let's go through it, through the thing, and we'll get to the parts that weren't good because, I didn't look this up. You asked me to look it up. I didn't have my phone on me. I'm going to look up, did PETA have a problem with this movie? Because it's not real.
Yeah, it's not real animals, so I don't know if they would
depict like abuse. Like, not like when you think abuse, you think of someone like hitting a dog with something, and there wasn't physical abuse, but it was like bad ownership of a dog.
Yeah.
In parts that I was like, I don't like this.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, he wasn't allowed to be a dog.
Yeah.
They like purposefully were like, you can't be a dog because if you're a dog, then it'll ruin it for everyone.
It'll ruin the most important thing ever, which is a TV show. I was like, come on. Mm-hmm. Which, I mean, that was kind of the point. You know, like sometimes you do things, you make villains very bad to like in wrestling or in anything where it's like we have to make the heel do bad things so that everyone boos the heel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think they meant like there wasn't a clear like mustache twirling bad guy other than the agent, which
the agent was
we will get to the agent. Like the agent is the villain in this movie.
Yes.
We will be ranking the agent.
Yes, because Mr. Calico or Dr. Calico. Yeah.
Dr. Calico.
Excuse me, not
he didn't go to
Mr.
evil medical school for 8 years to be called Mr. Calico. Thank you very much.
He's only in it at the very beginning and the very end. And I read that when I was like looking up research. And so I was curious who was going to present themselves as the villain. And it is most definitely the agent.
Well, and the cat, the first cat.
Oh, that's true. The cats that egg him on. Yes, that's taunting him. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
It's on the PETA website. It ranks as one of the better animal pictures of 2008. It says the good and the bad, and the good is Marley and Me, Bolt, and the Chronicles of Narnia Prince Caspian, and the not so good is the Dark Knight, which I understand because the Dark Knight like beats up dogs, if you remember. Yeah. Beverly Hills Chihuahua and Madagascar Escape to Africa, which we will never do on this podcast. Mm-hmm. And then the ugly is Speed Racer, You Don't Mess with the Zohan, and Semi-Pro. I don't know what happens with animals in those. I guess there's a chimp the whole time in Speed Racer. I feel like they didn't watch the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, listen, I don't want to go off on PETA right now, and there's plenty of very good, I think, animal rights activism. I don't think PETA is one of them. I think PETA is more performative than anything else. So to me, the idea that they just kind of went, oh, this is what I heard about these movies before they wrote an article, like tracks for me for PETA. Like, I don't want to, you're giving me a look like you don't want to bring up anything.
I'm just listening. you're taking a stand on the air. That's fine.
I don't like PETA. I believe in animal rights. I believe if you want to be vegan or vegetarian, that's up to you and not eat meat. I understand exactly why you'd want to do those things. PETA has done things that, like, and I can post stuff if anybody wants to have a discussion about this with me. You know, if you're pro PETA, call us 787-YO-TRPD1. We'd love to give you equal airtime, but there it is. Anyway, I think from this they didn't see the movie. They're just like, oh,
that is interesting that they just listed it.
I think they like stuff that has fake animals in them because then they're not doing actual animal harm. But this is and again, I don't know that. It's not like Disney is promoting animal emotional abuse in this, but they're definitely using it pretty flippantly.
They're using it like as the main theme, like to get him to a certain point where they could have done a different storyline to get him there.
But I think by the end they point out the point that what they did was bad. It wasn't just like what they did is something. I will say the fact that the show's still going on with another dog and like I'm like, I guess no one learned their lesson. Like, we don't learn anything about his stunt dog or whatever, his replacement. Like, that dog has to have a personality and beliefs and fears, and they never give him a voice.
His fear.
Yeah.
I mean, we can talk about that more when we get into the plot, but yeah.
But let's also talk real quick about they do the same thing to a little girl.
Yes. Right. I was really uncomfortable. I said the circumstances of distracting her with like, you have all these events and
yes,
like
even
pushing,
before they abandon her in a fire.
yeah, which
like,
comes much later.
They're exploitative, they're manipulative.
Yeah, and the mom's there, and you can tell the mom's like starting to get her courage to stand up, but like it felt like it was a very real scenario that has happened in Hollywood, like with a child actor.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I do want to point out that there was so much of this movie that I was like really enjoying and
I
laughing
laughed
and
a
having
lot,
a good part. I don't know
and,
about you, Gretchen, because we had to kind of mute each other because we were having echo issues. But was there parts of this you liked?
I really liked the friendship.
Yes.
All of the animals, and it was very like Homeward Bound-esque throughout the movie. I'm like, oh my gosh.
We need to do Homeward Bound. That's on the list.
That's the pigeons. The pigeons.
The pigeons. I love that they did the pigeons that were
regional
stereotypes.
pigeon joke.
New York from California. It was great.
Real quick, I never thought I would say the cat was my favorite character in this movie.
I know you're not a cat person, but
I loved Mittens.
I loved Mittens.
I thought like John Travolta was the biggest waste of a voice. Like how much they probably had to pay him.
But yeah, as far as like what they spent on him.
You said as you were watching, there's one part where he said something that sounded like really like Sandy. Like it wasn't that, but it was something that sounded very. You go, oh yeah, this is John Travolta.
Yeah, I forgot it was John Travolta for most of the movie.
You could have gotten some, veteran voice actor like. Mm-hmm. To do it for probably significantly less and done a more engaging
But that
performance.
was probably also so people would go see it. John Travolta's in it, so people go see it. Although from the three of us, none of us went to go see it because of that.
Yeah.
But we'll start here with the plot. I was so impressed from the first shot when they showed the Silver Lake Animal Rescue window. To me, that looked real. That looked like it was a picture of a real window. I always get so impressed with animation when things can get as close to life as possible.
You had a similar thing when they're driving through Vegas. Some of those buildings
looked
very real.
Yeah, some of those casinos looked looked real. But we see Bolt as a puppy, and he's so cute. And you can see from this moment how realistic the fur is. I think they did a really good job with the fur on all the animals, but especially Bolt and Mittens, because we get to see them up close a lot. So
I think now they do them, like the fur would be longer in some situations, but I think this was really good.
Yeah, I thought it was really well done. One thing that now it makes sense. Okay, so I wrote this down before I knew the story. I was like, it's really weird that Penny had a collar with a name picked out already, but that's because she was looking for a dog for the show.
Do you think so? Because it was her when she was like, it was like 5 years previous.
I know, but why would she have a collar with a name picked out when she didn't pick the dog yet? Why would you pick a name without picking a dog?
I don't know. Well, we talked about how some people change their dog's name when they get, like, people have different things. Like, I want to get a dog and I want to name him this. I don't know.
I guess that's true.
I feel like kids do that a lot more too. They're like, this is the dog's name, and
that's a good point. Yeah, and then that's just what the dog is. I guess that's true. Yeah. But yeah, that was one thing I was like a little like just had a question about. But it is cute that we see them connect really from that first moment.
Because to me, it felt, I don't think that had anything to do with the show.
Yeah. You think that was before she was an actress, and that they discovered her and then realized that like. Well, no, because she's never taken the dog home. She's never taken him home for a weekend.
There may be some holes in the 2008 Disney film Bolt that we're not quite...
that we're dissecting here. We're spending too much time on. But it goes...
Gretchen, I was going to ask real quick.
Ahead.
Were Coda and Bernie rescues?
Yeah, they both were. Coda never was in a shelter, but Bernie came from the shelter.
And were they named Coda and Bernie when... You got them, or is those names you came up with?
So Coda, I got him when he was 6 weeks old, and
they
had named him Kodiak with a K, and so I named him Coda with a C. But at that point, he lived with like 32 other dogs that this woman was fostering, so he would not have known his name. And then,
right, okay.
And Bernie's original name was Cheyenne, and like the tribe. And so I
weren't
that. Yeah, we weren't doing that.
No, I get that.
But to pick Bernie's name, I did every time I took him out, I would yell different names at him until he finally responded to Bernie.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, so Bernie
Your
wasn't my
neighbors
first
must have
choice.
thought you were insane just going outside being like
no, this was at the shelter still. So I'm sure there's all these people at the shelter. But anyway,
You're like, Claudio.
Yeah.
Sharky.
Yeah. I do think that's a cool kind of fun way though if you do want to rename a dog, because a lot of times people are like, oh, I'll do something similar to what the name used to be. But I feel like Cheyenne's kind of a hard one to...
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess
And
Shy,
he
but...
didn't know that.
Yeah.
They named him that when he got there, so...
Yeah, I feel like for us, like, we very rarely use Lady's full name, which is Lady Luck. I mean, we do every so often.
I think it's like a middle name situation when a parent's upset. We're like,
yes.
You know, like
Lady Luck, come here.
Yeah, I don't want to do it now.
Oh, I just did it,
what
but
did I do?
She's laying behind you. She's behind your chair.
Oh, hello.
Basically being like, I know it's nice outside. Why are we inside?
Why are we here?
But it shows 5 years later, and then it is very cinematic. And then Ryan did predict some of the plot here because it cuts right into the television show, and the dad, his origin story is Penny's dad alters him so Bolt can protect her. And he has laser eyes, so laser vision, super speed, super strength, and a supersonic bark. Those are like his big powers.
And this had a very Matrix feel with
I wrote that down that you said that, yeah. Kind of the opening, but Dr. Calico has her dad, and he's a professor of some sort.
He's a doctor.
The dad is as well?
Oh, no, not that. I just want to make sure you're
yes,
really
I thought I said Dr. Calico.
Yes, but you said he's a professor, and I wanted to make sure he's a doctor.
A doctor
of
evil.
Sort. Well, we don't know that. It could not be medical school. It could be like a PhD of like, you know, who knows, like music theory.
And he's got, I really don't want to spend too much time on Dr. Calico because he's only the villain in the show. And so he's not really the villain of the movie because we only see him like for a couple minutes in the beginning and the end. But he does have like one green eye that's like a cat eye.
Yeah, I think he's got a really cool design.
Yeah, and his cat that's on his shoulder is one of the cats Gretchen mentioned that torments Bolt in a little bit here that we'll get to. But
neither of the cats are Calico cats, just to be clear. He's Dr. Calico, but the cats aren't Calico.
Well, I mean, I think it's just like...
Uh-huh.
You know, Skeletor is technically just a skull, so it's not
well,
a full
why not?
skeleton.
But if they're movie cats, why not get Calico cats?
Right.
If you're going to call him Dr. Calico.
So it turns out that this isn't real, and then Bolt, they put him in a thing, and this is when we get kind of...
So the one thing I did like when it's still in the action sequence is when Penny and Bolt are trying to like hide, when they're trying to like sneak up on his henchmen, they're reading Tiger Beat and Dog Fancy.
Yes.
I just thought that was... I thought that was super fun.
They also do a move where like, oh no, this is later. Never mind.
Okay. But then it cuts to real life and they're watching the dailies. So now we're seeing like the inner workings of a studio and they realize the boom mic is in the shot. And at first I thought they were just annoyed that they got the mic in the shot. But then you find out that I guess it's the director.
Yes.
Is so upset because if the dog sees the boom mic, then he's going to know it's fake. And they go through all this trouble. And we see it later. They go through all this trouble to make sure that Bolt doesn't, that Bolt thinks he is a super dog and that none of this is like make believe or pretend, which this is where I think all three of us started having a little bit of an issue. Not necessarily yet, but he starts describing it and then you witness it.
I thought this was kind of dumb. It's when, so then the network person in there and she's like, we're losing demographics. You got to figure out a way to do this, and she's like, it's predictable. The dog always saves the girl at the end of the show, so you got to make it unpredictable. So then they film another spot, and at the end, Penny gets kidnapped, and then they take Bolt and like shove him in a
you've skipped a bunch of stuff.
Sorry.
That's okay.
But this is the part where we all went, well, now hold on a second.
Yeah.
Because I think when they're talking about like, we make the dog think it's real, we're all kind of like, that's fine. That's going to be silly. This dog doesn't understand reality. But then it's like...
the stakes become real.
It's not like a silly Hollywood person. Like, I thought they were going to play it up like that. Like, Bolt was going to be this kind of sheltered Hollywood life. Like, stand back, I can do this.
Oh, or like, I like sitting by the pool or whatever.
But then when you see it and he's not actually talking or anything at this point, he's just barking. You're watching a dog get abused.
Yeah.
Well, it's a cartoon dog, but you're watching a dog get abused.
Well, and the other thing, too, is... the director was very believable in the sense of like, you know, he has these like grand ideas and it's like if the dog believes it, the audience believes it. And like that's where his like, I guess, creativity is coming from with all this. And Mindy is basically like, she threatens to fire everyone. She's like, well, this is what it is and you need to fix it. So then Penny tries to play with him like a normal dog in their trailer. And, you know, she's trying to show him the carrot that he had from when she picked him out when he was a puppy, and you realize he doesn't know how to be a dog.
Yeah.
He doesn't know how to do any of those things. And then she has to leave him. And this is when she asks if she can take him home for the weekend. She's never taken him home. She's like, he just wants to be a real dog for the weekend. Like, can I take him? And then this is when we see the agent for the first time, who is awful.
Makes
I don't even know if
Hans
he has a
look
name.
cool. The agent. He was billed as the agent.
He's the worst. I hate the whole, we'll put a pin in this conversation line.
Yeah, it is the worst.
Whenever in the end he kept getting tripped or thrown out of the ambulance and stuff, I'm like, I want to hear a
broken
snap.
bones.
I want to see a bone poking out of the skin. I want to see him in pain. This guy sucks.
He was the worst. And so this is when we see that the two cats that Gretchen was mentioning, come and basically taunt Bolt. They know it's fake. And they know, well, the one knows that Bolt doesn't know. And so continues with like the evil laughter and like the banter of like as if they were still in the show. And then they leave and then he's all alone. Like that moment was so sad. Like all the lights go off on the studio, on the set. And like he's just in the trailer. And let's talk about how like he's locked in a trailer with a little bit of food. I don't know that I saw any water. And who's taking him out?
Right.
Like, that's another, like, form of abuse that they showed. Like, yeah, it was for a couple seconds, but I didn't like that moment either. Yeah. And then next kind of comes in with what you're saying. Next up, now we see the crew with the shots of the film. So we see the lengths they go to make Bolt think it's real. So now we're kind of seeing behind the scenes as they're shooting the television show. And Dr. Calico captures Bolt and...
Penny.
No, he's put in a kennel.
That's not Dr. Calico doesn't do that. That's just the
stage people.
The stage people do it because they don't want him to see Penny.
That's right.
Until the next
Sorry,
episode because they're going to
my
make it
notes were
seem real.
disheveled. Yes.
And that's when he escapes and gets out and is like running around the studio looking for like the editor's doing something like Bolt save me, Bolt save me, which is the most like looks like an editor going over the same thing and trying to find the exact like frame as someone who's edited before him.
And the cats go torment him again. They're doing it through the sunroof. They like go to it, and that's how he gets out. But this is where I wrote, I hate this. I hate that they're tricking the dog. I hate they're distracting Penny.
I hate that he was anxious about Penny. And I was like really having a hard time with those scenes being like, I need to settle into this.
His urgency to want to go find her and help her. And the fact that A, she wasn't in trouble. And B, she thought the same thing. She heard him bark when they put him in like the crate or the kennel. And she's like, no, he needs to know I'm okay.
It was weird because I was nervous until he meets the pigeons, and we'll get there in a second. The pigeons weren't helping him, but for some reason when, like, I guess they did help him with, like, here's how you get your head out. Like, I needed someone else there to bounce things off of to kind of, like, bring in some reality, because when it was just him, I'm just like, that dog's all alone.
He has
that
no idea
dog doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't know how to be a dog. He gets stuck in a package and mailed to New York. And so he's running around covered in little pink styrofoam peanuts.
Yeah, and
he can't do any of his superpowers. Quote.
You see him karate chop like a guy like on a park bench.
Yes, but it just kind of goes.
It was really cute.
Poom. That was funny.
Cute.
That's when I started kind of getting back into it. And he gets his head stuck between two bars, and he's like, "Why can't I bend these bars?" And that's when we first see pigeons, who are animated very well. Like, I love the way all the pigeons have this like quick little
movements,
motion
and the one was very like. The feathers were molting. Like one was like a little bit more like aloof than the other ones. I loved it so much. Yeah. And he also runs into other dogs. That's how he gets the leash clipped to him. He runs into other dogs and they start sniffing him and he doesn't understand what that means.
And the dog walker just clips him very quietly. She's very nice. Like for some reason I really like that. Is that something you would do if you saw like a dog with a collar?
Yeah. If they were just running amok, I'd be like, you want to come with me?
Yeah, I've done that before where I've come in and gotten an extra collar of ladies when like a dog's running behind our alley.
Like Loki or Max.
Yeah, they don't, but if they don't have a collar on, then like the leash is like worthless.
Gretchen, do you remember our small little vinyl fence in our backyard? Yeah. So everybody in our neighborhood has that, and our neighbor,
it's like a little white picket
fence.
They
have not a very big, I don't know what type of dog, like kind of like a Loki's like a sheepdog looking dog.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of dog she is.
A dog came over and they had puppies a few times before they.
A boxer basically weighed it for her every time she was
in heat.
Yeah.
So she has. They kept one of her puppies, and her puppy. Like when I told someone, I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's her son." They were like, "No." Like this is a full huge boxer.
Oh my God.
And he's a menace. I love Max, but he is a menace.
He's wild.
So like I walk lady down the thing and he goes, roof, and he Kool-Aid mans through the fence. Like they have replaced so many of those things and you can't
Now
buy the
they're
vinyl
wood.
ones. They're wood. They put wood ones in, so when he like runs at them, it's wood. They're like, we're gonna have like they either have to
And
replace.
he's fine. Like he doesn't come at you aggressive, but he just like busts through the fence.
Right.
Oh my God.
Like one time I drove by and there was all this white vinyl splinters in the alley. I'm like, I guess Max is out somewhere, and sure enough, he was down the road, and I tried to get him back in. I got Loki, no pro, just
Loki jumped right in the car.
Max would just kind of trot by me and go, like that's all he'd do, just do that.
Oh
And he laughed. I was like, okay, Max.
Yeah. But as you mentioned, the pigeons help him get his head unstuck, which is somebody's trying to help him a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then he starts talking. There's this whole bit of like, I know you from somewhere. I know this I know this dog.
couldn't figure out
And
where.
the buses drive by that have the advertisements for Bolt on it and all these things, and they can't place it. And he says he's looking for the cat. And then they're like, oh, we've got a cat we can send you to. And so we find out that Mittens has like
A racketeering.
Yeah, has like kind of a mob business going with the pigeons where she's...
Oh, it's protection. It's a protection.
It's a protection.
Racket.
She's like shaking them down and is basically like, if you want my protection and my claws, like to keep you safe. We find out later she's declawed. You never see her claws, but she always threatens to bring them out. She's like, you need to bring me food and you need to bring me pieces of food. So all these pigeons are like very scared of her and just bringing her like little bits of whatever they find on the street. And then this is how Bolt and Mittens kind of meet up together.
So Bolt like captures her and tries to interrogate her, and she's just like holds her over a bridge, because that's what he does on the show. That's where you see the speed
bus. But also she sees the address on his collar, so now she realizes he's from California. So she catches on to that.
So she gets a menu from the trash of a Waffle World, which is now my new favorite. They need to have a Waffle World somewhere at Disney.
Yeah.
And it's like all the different Waffle Worlds, and she's like, we're here and you need to get to here, which is like California. And he's like tied the other end of the leash around her so they can keep...
So they're together.
Yeah. And so then they start off on their road trip.
Yeah, and they see the U-Haul, which I laughed out loud because those U-Hauls all have different... they advertise different locations across the country, and they see one that says Hollywood. Yeah. So they hop in it.
And it's these people like packing it up, and one of them has a USC shirt, so I'm assuming he's going to college.
To college out that way. And we see them, like, there's a montage later when they're, like, on the road, and we see those guys.
Because it's still 2008, and it's probably way easier to just keep showing that car. Yeah. And the same guy instead of like, we need a new model every time we see this, we have a little gag with somebody.
That's true. I do like that throughout this part, like the adventure part of the movie, he uses, at this point, he still thinks he's a superhero. But even when he realizes he's not, he still uses some of the tricks he learned on set. And here to get into the moving truck, he uses the penny trick, which is like using an actual coin, a penny.
They roll a penny to distract someone.
Yeah. But then back at the set, and this is heartbreaking too. Penny's crying. The dog's gone. She's like very upset. The mom's like trying to comfort her, and the agent is trying to distract her because he booked her on the Tonight Show, and the side eye the mom gives him is so good.
Well, the agent's like, Bolt would have wanted you to go on the Tonight Show, and I'm like, I want you to fall in a well.
Yeah.
Bolt would have wanted you to have like...
He's the worst.
He's awful. Yeah. Nuclear go away.
So bad.
I was really hoping at the beginning, not to go back, but I was hoping that the agent was gonna like open the door when Bolt was all like growly and like, hey, I hate you. Like he was so scared. That part really bothered me when Bolt was like very upset in the trailer. I'm like, this dog is not okay. And
No, I agree. Yeah, that didn't sit right with me either. That whole first part was like uncomfortable.
I was hoping the agent would burn alive in the fire. But anyway.
Lots of opportunities.
Yeah, lots of opportunities to get hurt. But we go back to Mittens. Looking in boxes. So they're in the moving truck, and she's looking for something to attack Bolt with. So she's like, she's asking him questions to distract him. She's like tapping the trophy. Oh, that's not heavy enough. And then she finds this bat, and they must stop short or something because all the boxes fall on top of Bolt.
I think she falls because the bat's too heavy.
Is that what it is?
And then a box falls on Bolt that's covered in the same pink styrofoam peanuts, and he thinks that's his kryptonite.
That's what's making his powers go away.
Yeah, so
because the pigeons let him know that it's called styrofoam.
Yeah. So he runs out of the thing and explains to Mittens what's going on. Mittens tries to like get him to untie her with one, and then he like karate chops it out of her hand.
Yeah. The other thing that they had to do this because he doesn't know what it's like to be a dog, but these are other like sad moments is like he says, "What's that red stuff coming from my paw?" And I was like, "Oh gosh, he's bleeding. Like, did we need that? I don't know that we did."
I mean, I think there's a better way to show that he's sheltered or that he's hurt. Like, why do I hurt?
Like
it's
limping,
like, yeah, it hurts.
They do that later where he's sore.
Because they can't show blood, so they're just talking about blood, and I'm like,
yeah, I didn't like that.
There's a couple of spots in this where it's a little more adult, and I'll get to another one in a bit. But yeah, then his stomach starts growling.
Which I think that's a fine way to show, like, he's not used
he's
to
never been
having
hungry.
to get
He's
his
been weighted
own food.
on hand and foot. Yeah.
Right.
And I love this little bit where she teaches him how to beg.
That one's so
And he's
funny.
so cute when he puts his ears down. The way they animated him there was fantastic.
Well, it was just like kind of goofy, and then when they like all click together, it was like, oh, and
it was really good.
They're getting like
so they
hot dogs. She's like, look, my belly's distended. This is great.
Yeah, but this is when they're in Ohio at the trailer park, so they could basically just make their way around, and then of course she tries it once, and she gets like a pan thrown at her. Yeah. But then that's when we're introduced to Rhino, which Rhino is wild and wonderful. I don't know how you guys felt about Rhino.
I feel like he could have very easily been very annoying, and he wasn't.
Yeah.
I also feel like if this movie was made 10 years later, 100% he would have been cast as Josh Gad.
Oh, good
like,
point.
No question he would have been Olaf's voice, just being like, I am Rhino.
Yeah, but I really liked him.
Every once in a while, his voice sounded like the new Pennywise. Every once in a while, he'd be like, I like Bolt, and I sounded like hello, Georgie, and I was like, oh
no. But this old lady, I loved her getup. I loved her. I want to cosplay as her with those giant sunglasses. But she has so many hamsters. I did not get to count them, but there's a lot in her trailer. And Rhino's in the ball, and he's like flipping through the channels on TV, and he sees Bolt, and he like flips out, and he's a mega fan. He's like a super fan, almost to the point of, I mean, he is obsessed with Bolt. I think we could probably say that.
He's delusional as well, and there's a part where Mitten's like, I can only take one lunatic on this trip. Like,
and so the animation with him in the ball was very cool. I thought they really nailed it. I thought they did a really good job with him rolling around in that ball and everything they did along the way with him. Are you looking up something?
No.
Oh, okay. So then, that's the other thing I wrote here too about animation. The detail on Bolt's nose. Like his nose wasn't cracked, but how a dog's nose is like almost
pebbled.
Yeah.
It zoomed when in when he's getting with Rhino and they're like feeding off each other's energy and they're getting closer and closer to each other. Yeah, you were like, wow, look at that nose.
They did a really good job with that. So Rhino talks Bolt into let him come aboard. He's like, I'll keep the prisoner in line, referring to Mittens, and like he's going to kind of help keep an eye and everything. And he goes, I know our next transportation. And he sends him to a train, and they're up on a bridge.
Yeah.
And so Mittens, this is where Mittens figures out that he's a TV star, because Rhino says, oh yeah, I see him on the magic box. And so Mittens asks a few questions and puts together the magic box as the television.
Well, it's as they're about to jump off the thing.
And so it's this big action sequence, and they do make it onto the top of the train, but it is kind of scary because Bolt is not
there's a part where they
swing
through, and it's clearly just on accident where like there's an empty train, an empty car.
Yeah.
Then for some reason that made me go, whoa, like it'd be a little tense.
And then Bolt is sore, and that's where Mittens is like, yeah, the real world hurts. Like, she's starting to, like, make these comments.
Right.
And she's trying to give him the honest truth and tries to let him know they're now, like, kind of in someone's yard, and she's up in the tree still tied to the leash to him, and he tries to super bark her.
Yes.
And she's like, you can't do it. And so he keeps trying to do it, and this brings animal control.
Right.
Which I would, if there was a cat and a dog tied to a leash together in my yard and the dog was barking at the cat, I mean, I might try to go out there, but that is kind of a unique situation to be like, what's happening with these two animals.
With all the stuff that happened at the beginning of the movie, I was real like, oh God, I don't know how I'm going to like this animal control section. And it didn't, by the end, I was like, oh, it was a...
Yeah.
It wasn't like... Remember in like Lady and the Tramp where like the dumb dog goes into like the room and it's like he's not coming back?
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be something like that.
Like
and this wasn't like that at all. It was just... There is a loose dog and a loose cat. We're going to take them.
Yeah.
And so very quick. Like, very quick. I don't think animal control has ever responded as quickly.
That is accurate.
You ever watch Parks and Rec with their animal control department?
Yeah. Yes.
And they're like, look, I took a dead crow and I made a clock out of it, like on the Flintstones, and it's just like it doesn't do anything. I love them.
But I do love that at this point, Rhino, before animal control shows up, he's like, I'll get a ladder, and he leaves.
Yeah.
And then as animal control leaves, he gets a ladder.
He's bringing a ladder.
I'm impressed with his like go get it attitude.
Yeah.
He's great.
I was waiting for him to pull back and be like, I couldn't find a ladder. And then like sure enough he's figured out a way to move a ladder.
Yeah. So it cuts back to Penny. This is when she's printing the Lost posters. And the agent, this is when I knew this was going to happen. But the agent brings a replacement bull and tries to play it off. Bolt.
Oh, Bolt.
Tries to play it off like it's the real Bolt. He's like, Bolt's back. And then immediately there's a trainer with the dog.
Seriously, if a piano fell from a high height and landed on his head right then, I'd be like, that doesn't make any sense, but I'm glad.
And there's a trainer with this dog, and so he has the clicker, and so she's like, no, that's not him. And then this is when Mindy from the network shows up. And I will say, as much as like Mindy is not a great character and is a small character, at least she's honest with Penny.
Yeah.
She's very much like, look, we're holding up production. People are going to lose their jobs. I liked this line. I'm sorry to make a little girl make a grown-up decision, but like this is what it is.
It's also weird in this world that they're like, what it should have been was, hey, you have a job to do and we'll do your job. When you're off work, certainly go look for your dog.
Yeah.
Like, but for some reason in this, it was like,
an either-or situation.
Only exists for this movie in a way that was kind of weirdly unreal.
Yeah, and the mom is very prickly, like looking at the agent during this point. But I did like that at least Mindy was honest with her.
You're really tracking the mom for some reason. I had like
because I wanted someone to be protective of Penny, and I think her mom is to the extent that she feels like I might be reading into this, but I feel like the mom doesn't feel she has a say. And then when the stakes are really real with Penny, when she actually gets hurt, then the mom's like, okay, enough. Mm-hmm. Like, this is done. But
I wonder if they got into some kind of weird contract, because the mom does seem like she doesn't like a lot of what's going on, but she also has that kind of restraint, like, I really can't say anything.
Exactly. And I feel like you hear that story when you hear interviews with people who were like child actors. I mean, everybody's got a different story with that, but
I would say perhaps there wasn't a whole lot of thought put into the character motivation in what is at most a tertiary character in 2008 Disney's Bolt.
Probably, but yeah. So then it cuts back to animal control, and Rhino leaves the ball. So he gets out of his ball.
It's just like maniacal laugh.
And he has this whole speech, but he's like, ring, ring, Destiny called. Oh, no, he goes, ring, ring, Destiny, I've been expecting your call. Yeah. That's what he said. It's so good. He has so many good like one-liners. And so he saves Bolt. They're in transport to animal control, and Bolt keeps trying to just knock the door open with his head, and he's getting like lightheaded. Again, this is another sad moment. He's like really hurting himself, and Mittens is like, you can't do this. Yeah. And then he goes to do it again, and Rhino's on the other side, and he opens it. So at first, Bolt thinks he did it, and then he realizes Rhino did it, and then he's really down. Like, well, what am I if I'm not this super dog?
Well, I'm glad it wasn't the last thing, because I feel like we get a lot of good time for Bolt to realize his worth and like what it's like to be a dog, and I like that stuff.
Yeah. So, and I like that Rhino is his hype man. Like, Rhino really lifts him. That. Yeah, he lifts him back up. He tells him we have to go get. I don't think he calls Mittens a prisoner at this point, but the cat I think, I don't think he calls her by her name.
Rhino's insane, but like, I like that Rhino's always like, a hero is this, and blah, blah, blah. You know?
He gives a good speech here, but they have to go back for his ball. So they had to go back to the gas station where he got out of the ball and then go to animal control. But anyway, I love this is a clip I would watch over and over again on YouTube. Them getting into animal control was hilarious. Like everything that they did and like this series of events.
Ball, 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 ball,
ball.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then when it's in his mouth,
oh,
he's just
it's
covered
so
with
slobbery.
spit.
Oh, so gross.
It was so good.
But I love that she teaches him. Oh no, that's later. But yeah, I didn't write any. I guess I didn't write anything else about animal control
because you were
I loved
enjoying
it so
Well,
much.
I thought the humans were funny. I like the one woman who's like, I swear I work with toddlers, and she's like, Lloyd, if you're screwing with me, I'm gonna spray you with pepper spray again. And then she sprays the other guy with pepper spray, and like they're kind of dimwits. Again, it's nothing like.
Well, and they did have signs up that's like it's Adopt a Pet Day or something.
Yeah,
it seems like they're a friendly animal control.
It wasn't played like even like the new dog catcher in the live action Lady and the Tramp, who's insane.
Yeah.
But like, it was just like animal control doing a job and not necessarily like I love catching dogs. Like that.
So. This is when the montage begins.
That was my audition tape for any evil dog catcher positions. It was pretty good. Did you like it?
You can cut that and just make it into a reel.
Yeah, exactly.
But this is when the montage begins of them. They get on like a model house.
Yes.
Like a model home.
Yeah.
So it's like an empty house that's being like transported across the country. And Mittens is like, if it falls on the ground, it's for the hounds.
Yeah,
like she has all these little.
She goes, let me explain to you all the benefits of being a dog, and it cuts them at a toilet, and he's like, I drink out of that? Like,
yeah. There's a lot of really good moments, but she teaches him to stick his head out the window. That's such a great moment. She's like, now stick your tongue out.
Yeah, and he's like, this is great. You gotta try this. She's like, nah, it's a dog thing.
Yeah.
Like, I love her being like just street smart.
Yes.
Like, you talked about her at one point being very much like the Dodger from...
She has a lot of Dodger qualities from Oliver and Company.
Whereas, like, Bolt is capable, he's just very misguided and incorrect in his assumptions, and she's not necessarily, but she's smart because she's just been on the street for a long time.
And she's seen a lot of stuff, so she knows, She also teaches him to bury a bone. She teaches him, play in the sprinkler. That's when they're in the dump truck of the dirt.
I must have missed that,
yeah.
But I like the sprinkler where he starts picking it up and chasing him with it.
Yeah. She teaches him how to play with other dogs. Like another dog comes up to him. So there's a lot of good little moments like that. And then they get into Vegas and all the lights. So then we get to see a lot of the casinos. And I love that they're at the Bellagio fountains. That was cute.
You also love when they found the dumpster from the buffet. So they got like their own buffet.
Yes. I loved that. And there were so many dumpsters full of food. I loved that because, Mittens has been scrounging for food. And I'm like, she can eat forever.
Yeah. And so then Mittens introduces him to a home she's made for them in
sweet.
What looks like, I think it's just a dump, but it almost looks like if you're ever in Vegas, you got to check out the Neon Museum.
It's very cool.
Which is where they take and it looks like this. They've set them up, but it's just kind of like in a big yard somewhere. So it's all these signs they've set up.
It's all old signs from old casinos or things that were taken down or like.
It's really fun. It's off the strip, but it's worth it going to. And they have a Beetlejuice display there at one point, or a Tim Burton display.
Yeah, I don't know if it's still there, but at night they light everything up. So if
it looks
a
great.
Night tour is like the best way to see it. Also, it's not 1,000 degrees if you go.
Yes, it's also cooler.
It's
so
much
there's
cooler.
that. But she set up this home, and she's like, you can live here. And he's like, I have to go
She
find
makes him
Penny.
a bed, and she fills it with She's like, I filled it with the styrofoam, and like it's so sweet.
And he's like, I have to get to Penny. And so she takes him to a Bolt. Is the name of the show Bolt? Do we ever see that? Or is it just...
It always says Bolt, I feel like, on the posters, so
must
maybe.
Be. But she's like, does this look real to you? Like, she doesn't care about you. She's an actress. She's paid to do this. And then you kind of get a little bit of Mitten's backstory where she's like, some days they just leave and they don't bring the declawed cat with them.
And that's what felt like Dodger, too, because Dodger was left.
Yeah.
And Oliver and Company, we kind of find that out about him. And so he goes off and leaves, and she's, upset about it. And then Rhino shows up, and that meat lover's pizza sure didn't love me back.
He's got good lines.
He's got a lot of good lines. But he wonders, what happened to Rhino. And
what
he
happened
goes,
to Bolt?
Oh, thank you. What happened to Bolt? And he says, you never abandon a friend in a time of need. And he has like another hype man speech, but this time for Mittens.
Well, I think that one of the things of this movie is like, what is a hero? It's not necessarily abilities. It's what you do and like how you act. And I think that's Rhino is he thinks Bolt is a superhero, but like what's important to, Rhino really likes the super bark, but he's also like, oh, this is what we have to do because we're friends, because that's what a hero does.
What you do.
Yeah. And so they drag Mittens along, and they all start heading towards, at different, like, Mittens and Rhino behind Bolt.
Trying to get to LA. And so now he's in Bolt's in Hollywood, and this is where he runs into the California pigeons. And I love that they're pitching him a show idea. Well, that comes true.
Because one pigeon lands and doesn't say, this is my friend so-and-so. Goes, this is my writing partner.
Yes.
Which I'm like, oh, God,
such an LA thing.
And then they're like, we have a pitch for you. And he goes, oh, well, you can pitch me this idea, but you got to help me find the studio. And they're like, the whole way, they're like, aliens. It's what people want, blah, blah, blah. And they're doing this whole big pitch with aliens, and they bring them to the studio, which does look like the Disney. I've seen that picture of the Walt Disney Studios. I've seen that too, yeah. So it did look like it. So then he gets so excited. He finds his carrot toy. He sees Penny. He hears her calling him. He thinks she can see him. Yes.
And then this is when he sees her with the studio dog. And I knew it was going to happen, but it still made me so sad.
Yeah, it was so sad.
And he walks out, and then they do the clicker thing, and the dog goes away. And then Penny's very sad about the whole situation.
And talks to her mom.
And Mittens sees this. So that when Mittens runs into Bolt later, she's like, look, she's not acting with you. She's like, she's very upset. You got to get back in there, and you got to go get that kid.
And so you see that they did the whole scene with no props, with nothing, with this new dog.
Right.
And now they try it on set, and the new dog is terrified, which was also a really like sad and scary moment.
Yes.
So
that was so disturbing. It's like, this dog doesn't want to be doing this, so why are you making this dog do this?
Yes. And like there's actual fire and there's all this stuff happening, and so the dog's terrified and winds up running away and knocking some things over, and then a legit fire starts.
And this guy walks in and goes, oh no, fire. Who knew a fire could have started with all these lit torches in the scene?
No one has a
what
fire
did we forget to put here? An extinguisher. It's just, I'm like, shut this studio down. This is inexcusable.
And listeners, just like buckle in, because the next couple minutes are absolutely awful.
So then it shows everybody kind of being like, and then it cuts to Bolt, and he's talking to Mittens. He's like, Mittens, be quiet. And she's like, don't tell me. She's like, listen to me. He's like, no, like something's wrong. And then it cuts back to
He hears Penny calling.
Because everybody else has run around the studio.
And Penny's stuck in a harness.
Yeah, she was in a harness, tied. Now, the ropes that were tying her up easily break away, but she's still in the harness. She has to like pull a thing and then fall onto a thing.
Like an emergency thing.
Because everybody else just pieced out of there.
Everybody left
oh no,
her.
fire. Like, give me a break. There are so many rules about children.
And this is 2008. I really feel like I understand they wanted the stakes to be high for Bolt to save her, but I did not like what they did here at all.
I didn't either.
They were dangling from the ceiling while everything's on fire.
Yeah, and all the adults are
all the adults peace out.
Again, if I was just...
Yeah. Now, I will say, when Bolt runs in to save her, he does trip the agent. We cheered at that moment.
We cheered because he runs the agent, and it's just like, Bolt?
But then Penny passes out from the smoke. Like, Bolt gets to her.
Well,
finds
I will
like
also
an
say
air vent.
Rhino and Mittens help him get in. Like, there's a little team moment where they're all running. Which
and then Rhino's like, today's a good day to die, because his ball is under a metal steel beam, and then Mittens saves Rhino.
So I will also say another moment with Rhino that I went, this is really funny, but I'm a little disturbed, is when they're in with the animal thing, and they're like sneaking up, and it's Bolt and Rhino. He goes, what do we do about that guy? And Rhino goes, I'll break his neck.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I was like, and Bolt's like, no.
Like,
which is really funny, but I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. Rhino's like 100% committed.
He's insane. He's an insane character.
Great. But he drags Penny to the air vent and tries to get her to follow him, and she passes out from smoke inhalation.
Passes out, she goes, go ahead, Rhino. It's fine. She she does the thing. Like, there was this podcast I listened to once where I forgot what the subject of the podcast was, but they spent 10 minutes talking about what they referred to as one of the greatest scenes in any movie, which is when someone goes, I'll hold them off. And they're going to die. And they're like, you go ahead. But that felt like that to me. Like, Penny was like, moment. You go ahead, save yourself, Bolt. And I'm like, girl, you got there's clean air not 5 feet from you.
Well, and I had a lot of mixed emotions because I was so emotional when they saw each other again.
Yes.
Like, it was a very emotional moment of, oh my gosh, they're reunited. But then I also had all of these ugly feelings of like, I don't like what this story is doing here. And it was, I didn't like how it made me feel.
What do you think, Gretchen? I mean, you're saying a lot, so I'm sure you're agreeing, but were you and Chris just like, what is happening?
Yeah, no, I all of the above. I really like that she told him zoom zoom.
Oh,
Like
yes, that's right.
and to get out of there, and he just like he really was like this heroic dog in that moment. And
Yeah.
I was like, I can't believe that they're gonna let her die. Like I knew they weren't gonna let her die,
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it really felt like they
were
could
gonna
have.
let her die.
Yes.
Like right there.
I
And yeah.
I
It
never
was
felt
so
like they were going to let her die, but I was like,
If it was
you're
a
being
different-
very exploitative, not like the movie was
Yes.
playing our emotions as well as the characters to her.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
first I go like, okay, these are the bad guys and they're treating her like crap, and that's just how this is.
Yeah.
But then as we started watching the movie, I'm like, okay, you, the movie makers who are making Bolt, not the ones in the movie, the ones the
actual
real
creators.
actual creators
Yeah,
of the
real
movie
world.
Bolt are exploiting this character who, again, isn't a real child. There's no actual child endangerment. But also these animated movies are supposed to make you feel like these are real characters. And they're doing things to this quote-unquote real person that's making me go, I know you're not going to kill Miley Cyrus, but you're really running me through the ringer with this character. And I'm not sure I like how you're playing with my emotions.
I think it says something that if we feel this strongly, they did what they set out to do, but I don't know that they should have set out to do that
way.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what the solution is.
But yeah,
again,
I didn't like
90% of this movie I really liked, but
Agreed.
the 10% I didn't like wasn't like yawn, stretch, look at my phone. It was like, no! Like, I was like very mad about this movie in spots.
So this is, though, he gets to do a sonic bark because his bark echoes through the like vent.
Yes.
And that's how the firemen hear that they're still inside. And then they go in and save her. And the mom is the only one looking for Penny outside. She's in a panic, and I understand a lot is happening.
If she really cared, maybe she wouldn't have been getting a sub at the craft service table when they were filming the scene with fire and her daughter hanging from a thing.
Maybe the agent wouldn't allow her in there. You don't know.
Let's imagine this scenario where you're playing Mama Bear and someone tells you.
No one's going to tell me I can't go in there.
You're not going to be like, I don't know, they got an everything bagel at the thing. You're going to be like, no.
I'll take that everything bagel to go in my pocket and I will go see.
That's not the important part of the story I'm trying to get across. I'm not trying to figure out what you would do with the everything bagel. What I'm trying to figure out.
Carbs are important to me, okay?
Yeah. It goes, lady, me, carbs.
But they get Penny. They put her in the ambulance. I do like that Mittens and Rhino go under the stretcher. But then Ryan said this terrible thing. He was like, well, in real life.
They make the wheels go up to put it into the car so they would have been
crushed.
squished.
I was like, you be quiet. But this is when the agent comes in and is like, oh, we'll get you a producer credit and we'll be able to do all these things, and the mom just kicks him out.
Then I would have been better if he's sitting there doing the story and she puts something into a syringe and just like covers his mouth and puts it in his neck and is like shh and watches as his life leaves his body.
Worst. He was the absolute worst. But it cuts to a hospital room. But the way they do it, you realize, okay, we're watching the show. Like we're not
right, because they're like, we had to fix your face,
and it's a new child actor, a new girl, and aliens capture her. So the bit that the pigeons pitched came true.
But this is the one thing we were talking about was, so now the show continues with a new dog. I would like to have seen some indication that the new dog wasn't being exploited in the same way that the old dog was.
Well, because at first I was like, oh, maybe Bolt will continue because he knows he's not a super dog anymore. Maybe he'll continue and Penny will just show up and take him. But no, they move like to the middle of the country. They're in a farm somewhere, like a farmhouse.
Well, I think like based on how the second dog they brought in, they were that dog was not working for the love of working. That dog was working to get the treat and the click. Like that was why that dog was working. I don't think they could potentially have gotten another dog that looked exactly like Bolt to have a deep-seated relationship and with that child.
Right.
But I don't think it would have worked the same way with any other dog. It just happened to be this very specific, like, we created this insane bond with this child, and
but there was also no indication anywhere in the movie that anyone from the studio learned any sort of lesson.
Yes.
Oh yeah, no.
So that to me is maybe this dog isn't being exploited in the same way as the previous one.
Yeah.
Oh,
but
exploited in some way, yeah.
Yes, like to me, it would have been they show that scene and then they go like you hear the like ring and it's like cut, that's it, and then like clearly there's like a group that's like animal like Hollywood animal rights. And they're like on set watching. No, like seriously, when they bring people on to watch animals to make sure that stuff's not
safe.
happening.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard the story with Oh Brother Where Art Thou, where he shoots they run over the cow in the car, and it's a CG cow, but they showed it, and like animal rights groups were like, "You have to prove to us that that's a CG cow." So they had to like go in and show the footage of like the cow being made and the wireframe and this.
Well, that's
because
cool
it looks so real.
Yeah.
They were like, "I can't believe you did that to a poor cow," and they're like, "No, like here's what we did." Yeah. But that's when you see any of those things at the end of movies that say no animals were hurt in the making of this picture. There's a group who is in charge of being on set to
oversee
give that stamp.
Yeah.
So I would have liked to have seen that. Oh yeah,
no, not at all. They didn't have it for the children either. She was probably working long hours, and
this is a world where like child labor laws don't exist.
Yeah, that part was not great, but. Then we cut back that they're watching the TV show. So they're at this farmhouse.
Rhino is watching.
Well, Rhino is watching, yeah.
I had a real, like, anxiety thing for a second that I had forgotten to not press the button.
No, it's recording.
And I looked for, I don't know why. Like, if you just saw the color go out of my face for a moment. Sorry. It's just Rhino, and he's like, this is so unrealistic with
the aliens.
Because Dr. Calico's like, aliens. It's so ridiculous.
But it is cool that they all have a home together. So it's Mittens, it's Rhino, it's Bolt, and she's like, "Do you want to go outside?" And she's playing with him like a regular dog.
Yeah. I like that Mittens was like cozying up to the mom.
Yeah, and the mom like just gets the right spot.
Yeah.
When she's petting her.
And
great.
Rhino was just kind of like still on the ball, like like didn't really have someone to pair up with, but didn't seem to mind.
And then there's a fun little animation at the end that like it's through the seasons. It's like all three of them like through different holidays and things like that. But that's how the movie ends, is they're happily ever after kind of in this farmhouse.
Let's go over. I know it's been a while since you've done this, Gretchen, but let's go over the episode. It's been a while since
we've done it too, I feel like.
Oh, we've done it. I just think we've done it with a person.
Yeah.
Another person. How was the princess? The princess in this movie, of course, being the titular character, Bolt.
I loved Bolt.
Did
you not love him?
I mean, he was good for the movie, but like he was kind of like a good scoop of vanilla ice cream. You know what I mean? Like,
okay.
I liked the lesson he went through. I liked again, I felt good for him. Like as a dog lover, I felt good for him at the end. That I'm like, he gets to be a dog. Like I liked his journey. Yeah. John Travolta's portrayal didn't do much for me. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't like, oh man, John Travolta really nailed this. It was just like I said, it was a good scoop of vanilla ice cream. It was a nice glass of milk. It wasn't that big deal because to me, how was the prince?
Well, hold on, did Gretchen answer?
Oh no, we're just going to listen to my answers because I'm a complete jerk. Gretchen, what did you think about Bolt?
You're just zooming on through.
Sorry.
I loved Bolt. Obviously, he's dog, but he like learning how to be a dog and like his interactions with the cat, like just it's almost like he learned to hate cats, but he didn't really hate her, so he didn't really know how to hate the cat, and he had no prey drive, so he didn't even know he was supposed to like want to kill Rhino. Like it was just like I just really liked his like not knowing the world and learning it in this weird way, even though like a lot of it was super unrealistic. It's like this is not how dogs work, but I still thought it was very endearing.
Yes, I would agree. I would say I do agree with your point of John Travolta's voice. I don't think added anything to it. I think a lot of what I liked was kind of the story, the interactions between him and Mittens, the animation. I think a lot of that did the heavy lifting. I think John Travolta's voice was fine, but I think any one of us could have voiced Bolt and could have had a similar, you know what I mean? Like,
I think there's a reason no one remembers John Travolta did this movie.
Yeah.
How was the prince? Now, I think we could make an argument. My first argument for the prince would be Mittens.
Yes.
Mittens, like I said, was my favorite character.
I liked Mittens a lot.
Yeah.
I thought she was funny. I thought she had some very endearing moments. I thought she was like the smart one. I
she
just
went
liked
through
her a lot.
own journey
Yeah.
as well. And I really liked that we got to follow her journey as well as Bolt's kind of together and separate.
Gretchen?
Yeah, I love Mittens. I love that Mittens like was like, hey, we're all staying here where the buffet is.
I know. I love that moment was so heartbreaking and sweet at the same time that she like made. I love that she made houses for them.
I mean, I feel like
my family.
I feel like there's a more like adult, not adult like R-rated, but like version of that scene where it's like Bolt's like, I have to go do this, and Mittens is like, well, I'm staying here. Like not like I'm mad at you. It's bad that you're going, but it's like, thank you for getting me this far. Good luck to you. I hope you find Penny. Like, this is where I live now. You know what I'm saying?
She's like, I know that this is the best place I can take care of myself.
Now, I like the ending with them all being a family, and I'd like to think that she's getting fed all sorts of crazy food, and she's doing just fine.
Yeah.
The other prince, I think, could also be Penny. I liked Penny a lot. I thought Miley Cyrus did a pretty good job. I do think Miley Cyrus would be a better actress now than she was then. She's done like some more kind of, she did like an episode of Black Mirror. I think she's done a few other things. Like, I feel like she's posed to have another big role, and I'd like to see her. I'd like to, I guess, hear her in another Disney movie sometime.
Yeah, I liked Penny. I think I gravitated towards the animals more, but I did like her genuine care for Bolt.
Yeah.
And her connection to Bolt.
And she apparently invented selfies.
Oh, yeah, with the Polaroid, yeah.
Yeah, that was really cute.
Sidekick and henchman, I think there's only one person really to talk about here, and that's...
the agent.
Oh, no,
sidekick and henchman. Sorry, I'm already angry at the agent.
I know. Trust me, we're going to get to the agent. Rhino was spectacular. Was a complete goofball. Yeah.
I was not expecting. I had a lot of facts about Rhino, but knew nothing about Rhino at the start, and I was not expecting to like him as much. Or he was an integral part, I think, to the whole story, and like bringing the three of them together throughout. I really liked his character a lot.
Yeah.
My favorite part was when he ripped off that boy's arm at the beginning of the movie and was like, "Hello, George." No, sorry, wrong movie. What'd you think, Gretchen?
Oh, I loved Rhino. I loved when Rhino was like, "Hey, look at my little birthmark too."
Oh yeah. He was a super fan for sure. He was wild, but I loved him. And him being in the ball most of the time was really creative and really impressive. You know, he didn't have to be maniacal.
Well, yeah, it looked cool, and like he would operate within the ball, like because he's standing in a weird way that if you take the ball away, like,
and that's why
he's kind of standing up to be taller. It was an interesting choice, and I think it worked really well.
Yeah.
Let's talk about does it hold up? I mean, honestly, I think it's a very white movie, ethnic representation. Guns, firearms, there's like missiles and explosions. I think this was PG and lasers and stuff. But I think we've talked about the biggest issue, which was like the anxiety you get from the way they exploit animals and children. And it's something we don't really talk about in a lot of these, but it was very prevalent in this and very noticeable.
And enough that it made all three of us uncomfortable.
Yes.
Yeah.
Gretchen.
Yes.
Do you remember how to do the villain ranking? If we go through it as we go, do you think you can?
I'll be fine.
Okay.
Yeah, we can keep going.
So we are now ready to do the infallible scientific villain ranking, and we, of course, are doing Dr. Calico. Just kidding. We're doing the worst of all time, the agent. I'm going to go ahead, and without doing anything else, I'm going to go ahead to Go Away Heat, and we're all going to give him 5?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. We're just going to start with Go Away Heat.
He was
for 5.
the worst.
And then I think I'm going to go ahead and predict everyone's yes factor will be 1.
Yeah, I'd give him a 0 if that was an option.
Yes. I didn't know he existed until this came. I think I knew he existed because he's played by an actor. I forgot the actor's name, but I'll show him to you. He was in Ally McBeal.
Oh, did you hear Randy Macho Man Savage's voice anywhere in the movie?
Oh, yeah, I didn't.
I didn't either.
Oh.
I wasn't, like, looking out for it like you were, but I didn't, like, I don't remember hearing anyone.
He was in the thing. Weird.
I believe that you read that, but I didn't hear him either.
I like it. You're like, I don't believe that you're correct. I believe that you read that, is how you put that. Okay, frightening. Ones. He didn't frighten me.
I mean, he's not scary.
He's annoying.
Yeah.
Well, he might be a bad villain on top of being like having the worst go 8.
Yeah.
So one's across the board.
Yeah, ones.
Yeah.
Funny. I didn't think it was funny at all.
Not funny.
Guy can kiss my butt.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be my favorite villain ranking we've ever done.
I know, because it's all ones and
then
one
a 5. Fierce.
No.
Okay, one's across the board for Fierce.
He's the worst.
Effective. Now, I might give him a 2 or a 3.
He's effective at distracting Penny to... She doesn't forget about Bolt, but he kind of shifts her to be like, okay, we've got this promotion to do, or we've got this interview to do. And so it pulls her away from Bolt because he's putting a pin in the conversation.
Oh right. Like, I use that term, and now I don't want to use that term because of this. Like,
don't.
I don't think anyone I know is going to be like...
No, you've never used it to me, but I'm just saying don't.
Okay, well, we'll talk about this later. We'll put a pin in it for now. Effective, I would give him a 2 or a 3.
I think I'm going to give him a 2.
Yeah, I'm going to do the same that he does that. I think he's effective at what he wants to do, but I wouldn't call it much of an evil plan.
No. Right. And in the end, he gets kicked out of an ambulance and they quit.
Yes. Design, he just looks like a regular guy to me. I'm giving him a 1.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
So this is fun. I think this is, ladies and gentlemen, this may be the very first time we've had a 3-person exact same score.
Yeah, I think so. Because even with you and I don't think we ever have the exact same score.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, this is great. He's
so
going to be
he has
so
a 12.
low.
He's not the lowest. Aconcagua is always the lowest with 10. He is...
Oh, he's with the guys from...
He's tied with Dr. Terminus from Pete's Dragon.
Yeah.
As the third to last villain.
Appropriate. Oh, he was so bad.
He was. I was just thinking that.
Yeah.
Like, he sucked. Like I was always talking about Hans having the most go away heat. There's no way. Like, this guy, I hate him. Like, if I could give him 1,000,000, like, it was just like, like, because, again, if he was like, oh, I just accidentally brought up a picture of Lady. Oh,
she's so cute.
So it's, like, if he was actually a good villain but had go away heat, do you know what I'm saying?
Well,
I'd be like, interesting, but he just sucked.
Honestly, there really wasn't a strong villain, right? There really, like, yes, he was the villain, but do you know what I'm saying? I don't know that they intended him to be the villain.
Yes, right. I think anything I've ever seen has shown Dr. Calico.
And in the villain book that I have, it's Dr. Calico, but it's like a nothing page. And it's a nothing page because he's a nothing villain because he's a villain.
He's fictional within the story.
The fictional world, yeah.
So I guess the last question, of course, is would you add it to in a clamshell in your collection, or would you put it in the vault? And I swear to God, Tara, if you say stick it in a drawer, I don't know what I'm gonna do. But
I'll let both of you go first.
I mean, here's the thing. I think I'm going to go with me coming out of watching it. I would have kept putting it in our collection because I had no expectations for this movie. Mm-hmm. And I thought the stuff that I liked was really good. But the more like we kind of got in this frenzy of like now I'm like, throw it in the vault. But I think if I told someone throw it in the vault, it would make it sound because no one has any.
The whole movie's awful.
It's not. There's a lot of this movie I really, really liked.
Yes.
But the child endangerment, I was like, I mean, I was just rubbed. Not that there's child endangerment that like rubs me the right way. I'm like, oh, that's good child endangerment. Yeah. But this, I was like, oh my goodness, and animal. I don't know. So I think.
This is when you'd want a drawer. I'm just going to throw that out there.
What? You know what? I'm not a fence sitter.
Whoa!
So I am going to go with my initial gut reaction and say I'm gonna put it in the collection.
Okay, Gretchen, how about you?
I think if I had watched this for the first time as a child, I probably would feel all kinds of endearing ties to it, and I would definitely want this in my life. Like I'd be like, oh, I love this movie, but. For the first time now is in the vault. I will never watch it again.
Ooh. Yeah. Gretchen.
Wow, Gretchen. I think I'm with Gretchen on this one since I can't have a drawer, even though listeners.
I'm very proud of you for at least taking that.
It's in the drawer. But
I'll put you in a drawer.
It's in a drawer that's labeled the vault. How about that? But anyway, I would agree with Gretchen. I think if I saw this when I was younger, I think a lot of that stuff that really bothered us, I probably wouldn't have even noticed or like connect it to in that way. However, the scenes that I really like, I could revisit on YouTube if I was like, I really want to see this scene from Bolt.
I want to see Rhino and Mittens.
Yeah. So I think since I have the ability to do that, I probably wouldn't put it in the collection.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point that there's like better versions of this that are full movie. Like we need to watch Homeward Bound. Like Homeward Bound should be a very quick mini tale after this. I don't know
maybe
that
we'll get Gretchen on it, even though it's a mini tale.
I mean, I'd be cool with that.
Okay.
Not to sign you up for something else, but if you want to do this again with us.
But yeah, thanks, listeners. This has been good. I mean, I think this is a new question, but I know we've said put it in the vault, and this is such a weird thing. It's not like a clear vault entry, and it's not like a clear shelf one. Would you suggest people check it out? Like, knowing what we've told them? Like, you've listened to this podcast, you're waiting to be told, check it out.
Okay, so they have all the information we've just given over this.
Yes. They're avid Tara and Ryan's Princess Diaries listeners.
Well, then they probably should listen. They probably should watch it.
I would agree.
Yeah, I think it's worth checking out. I would agree.
Also, if you're doing what we're doing and you're watching them all, I would agree. It's worth a watch. And what would you say? 75%, 80% of the movie is really good.
Yeah.
I thought more than that. I thought more than that percent of it, but it wasn't like, because I've seen movies where there's a percentage of stuff I don't like. But I just, like I said, look at my phone or whatever. This was like me being like, oh, what are they doing?
But it's really the beginning and the end. It's like if you just watch the core middle, I'm not suggesting that, but there's so much good stuff in that middle section.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Gretchen, thank you so much for going on this adventure with us. This is our first. I've wanted to do this for a while, I think, is watch one that someone's interested in, but they haven't seen.
Yeah, this is the first time we've been able to do that.
So very cool and very fun. As always, we ask our guests if they want to plug something, whether it be a personal project, a general sentiment they want to put out in the world, or like some piece of media you've been enjoying lately. Please feel free to plug away.
Get acupuncture for your old dogs. That's where I'm feeling right now.
Oh, is Coda getting acupuncture?
Coda has had acupuncture for the entire last year, and it was helping him more than I knew, because he took a month off when we got here, and he deteriorated really quickly, and we got him back in yesterday, and he bounced back really quickly.
That's good to know.
That's great. And Coda's a tripod now.
Yes.
Yeah, Coda's a tripod, and he's 11, and he's the best.
Yeah.
Now, when he does it, is it I saw someone doing this. I saw a wrestler put this on their Instagram. Do they do the ones where like you have the acupuncture in you, and then they're also doing electricity a little?
Yeah, he did that in Spokane. I'm not sure here because they're doing COVID protocols, so I wasn't in with him.
Oh, okay.
But he's the best. The vet came out and was like, he was great, and just laid down and was like, yep, do it. I know what you're doing.
Oh, that's great. I'm so glad that's helping for him.
Yeah, so that's my into the world. Everyone get acupuncture for
your dogs. not even just your dogs. I mean, my mom was having some issues with some allergies for a while, where she had these really intense, like she ate certain things that got hives.
Yeah.
And my mom was always the person that was like, anything, just east of Western medicine,
any
was
like
hoodoo.
Holistic type stuff.
And she's like, no, and she started doing acupuncture, and it really cleared her up for a while. Oh, like wow. not that they actually, like, I don't think she does acupuncture anymore. I also don't think the hives are as much of an issue as they once were.
Yeah. It's so, like a combination.
I don't know. Do your research, and if it's right for you guys, check it out. If it's right for you or your dog, or your hamster or your cat,
check it out and take care of yourselves.
Well, guys, thank you so much. We only have one more episode before we're going to take our little hiatus between season 2 and 3, and that is. Next week, we will have, we're skipping a mini tale and going straight to another full episode. We're doing The Princess and the Frog with returning guest Becky.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm very excited because after having a very, meh villain, Dr. Facilier.
Oh, yeah, he's a very strong villain.
I love him. So we will see you next time for that. But until then, we'll see you next time.
All right, take care, listeners. Thanks for listening to Tara and Ryan's Princess Diaries.
If you want to tell us your favorite Disney villain and why it's guest on, send us an email at trprincessdiaries@gmail.com.
Or you can send a tweet about how great Maleficent is to @TRPDiaries.
Check out our Facebook group by searching for Tara and Ryan's Princess Diaries.
Tara and Ryan's Princess Diaries are available on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Overcast, and many more.
Wherever you hear us, please be our knight in shining armor and give us a 5-star review.
Thanks again, and until next time, remember to always live happily ever after.